Welcome to Jobs in Tech. Welcome to the show today. In the house, Mr. Brad Anderson. What's going on the show? What's happening in the world of jobs in tech and the craziness out there of the world of technology? And okay, I'm stopping. Sorry.
No. Keep going. I mean, you're more than welcome to keep going.
It's been one of those days, Brad.
It really has, right?
I'm just excited about life and
right.
the beautiful techie stuff going on out there in the world. And
right.
What's going on? What are we doing in the show today?
Well, we actually have guests today. I'm actually quite excited to introduce Liz and Laura from CivicActions. I know we've had them on our show before, but we thought we'd bring them back and do more of a deeper dive.
Too. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
Has it been a year? I want to say
pretty close. I think. Yeah, I think we're right there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give the floor over to them. Let them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their background, who they are, what they do at CivicActions, and I'm going to put them on the spot real quick and ask them what's their favorite thing about CivicActions that they like.
Ah, nice. We didn't have that in the list.
Right.
Okay, you can throw that curveball in there.
Just a little bit, right?
I can go first. I actually love the intro. It kind of felt like I was at a monster truck show on a podcast, so I really love that vibe to
Love
get
it.
us started. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Up next. Oh, sorry.
Perfect. So I'm Liz Tepper. I'm the director of product at CivicActions. I've been working in tech for 23 plus years. Started my career as a software engineer and eventually meandered my way over to product after a lot of different roles. But I've been working in what I call impact tech for over 7 years. And what brought me to CivicActions was government work. It's the place where you can make the biggest impact and touch so many different lives of people of all different backgrounds and abilities, and there's a lot of opportunity to make improvements. And so this is my place. And one of the things that I really appreciate about CivicActions, because one of our sort of like core values is kindness and care, is it's a really safe place to be at work, where you can not only like be yourself, but it's psychologically safe. And many of us carry work traumas with us when we go from one business to another.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that doesn't exist here, and I can just really do the work that I need to do without having to worry about that.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Good. That's super good.
What about you, Laura?
So hi, I'm Laura Lanford. I'm a director of engineering here at CivicActions, and my background looks a lot like Liz's. I started out as a software engineer about 24 years ago, and have been in impact tech, specifically government tech, for about the last decade. I'm here for the same reason, because I think that working for government is one of the most impactful ways that you can affect an awful lot of people with relatively small changes at the foundations of what's happening. The thing I love best about CivicActions, beyond being where my heart is from a passion standpoint, career-wise, and beyond working with Liz, I can tell with an anecdote. When I came on, career baggage and all, and I asked my manager, where do you need me? What is the highest priority that you need me to work on? And his response was, well, what do you want to work on? And he really meant it. And just that dedication to letting people work where their passions and interests take them is really special and unusual.
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't see that as much anymore. I mean, to your point, I really think that nowadays companies are more, this is where I need you to put out this fire, and it's less about, hey, where do you want to work on? Where's your passion? Let's get the best out of you.
But don't you think, too, I mean, because of all the people we've had on the show now over time, do you think a lot of companies are getting a little more culture, understanding the culture that they're creating and wanting people to have that kind of feeling in their company? I mean, if you're not doing that now, it seems like I don't want to be a part of a company that isn't being human.
I mean, yeah, I'll go first. I think that companies are realizing that and getting better, but I still think there are shops out there that don't care, that are just work. I don't care, get it done, whatever it takes type of mentality.
I think there's a lot of companies that would really like to, but if it's not built into your culture as you grew, it can be really difficult to fix that in retrospect.
Well said, Laura.
That is the thing right there. Once you start a machine, trying to change that machine is really, really hard. But if your core is what it is, and you're that to begin with, and I get that that's Civic Action, that was their core, their whole belief system is to connect and really be able to move forward in the people-verse, not just the work and the
right.
and the stuff. Am I on to something here? Is this true? You guys, it's built into the culture.
Yeah, it's a really sort of phenomenal culture in a lot of ways. So first of all, we've been fully remote since 2004. So before video conferencing exists. So let that blow your mind first.
Wow.
And so in terms of like, a company who's really got it figured out on how to do remote work and make sure that like people are connected. Like Laura and I have only been in person together once at a leadership retreat, and I feel like I know Laura really well and can connect with her. I'm hoping you can get that from our vibe here on this call. But
honestly, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, and so like the way Civic Actions does remote culture is the best that I've seen. And, we have lots of opportunities to connect with people where we do like these social pods where people can just connect socially with other people and not talk about work. And then our style of communication remotely is very, it's very sort of forward in terms of like people feel in the loop and they feel like they have an opportunity to communicate. So that's one element. I'll let Laura riff a little bit on that too if she wants to.
In addition, I'm glad that you brought up the social pods because that's a huge place to just get to know people who are outside of your practice area. But I'd also like to say that I love that we have dedicated practice areas. We are a contracting firm, which means that most people spend most of their time with a specific client on a specific contract. But we're also very into promoting the discipline-based practice areas that we have. So Liz has the product practice area. We have DevOps, we have front end, we have QA, we have data, we have Drupal, all as their own places that anybody can go to learn more about what's happening with that technology, independent of what they're working on day to day.
Awesome.
I love that whole thing because right now it's kind of the bandwagon to say, oh, all this remote stuff sucks. We don't have connectivity. None of us are able to really connect as human beings. And I like to hear, that is not always the case. You can have human connectivity and still be remote. And I found more and more, I kind of fought it too. But as I do more things and more calls, I do realize, that person's personality comes through just as if they were sitting here at the table with me. There's not really, just because they're not physically here, their personality is still there and I can still get to know them and understand who they are. I think it's just a bandwagon that we jump on. Everybody jumps on and say, oh my gosh, remote sucks. It's horrible. There's no connectivity between human beings. And I love to hear that is not the case, that you guys are feeling, hey, we have a great community, a great culture, and we're all remote.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Please. This really does go back to the culture, something that Liz said a minute ago about people feeling comfortable talking in meetings and coming forward with it. I've been remote for a long time and have never been at a company where you can expect everybody in a given meeting to say something and be engaged the entire time. It's just the way that Civic Actions has grown up communicating with each other, and it's really effective.
And
That's
I think
awesome.
It's the future.
Oh, absolutely.
I think other companies are going to have to understand, hey, this works, and so much more can get done. And
Agreed.
It's so much easier to let folks. It never works to hammer down on your employees and crush them down and force them into this little bitty box and say, you just do your work. That we've seen time and time again that doesn't work in the long run. In this day and age, people they're not willing to do that anymore.
Well, not only are they not willing to do that, they actually have options. They can leave at that point. So it's more advantageous for a company to say, hey, you know what, we need to change, we need to adapt, we need to adopt these principles.
With that said, I like to ask, and I want to ask this question. So how would you guys say, and I think you're already saying it a little bit, how are you guys a disruptor in your industry? What are you guys doing to kind of disrupt? I want, because I know you got a story around it. I want to know.
Absolutely.
Laura, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to?
How about I start and then you talk, because I think that your team is such a pivotal part of what we're going to talk about here. I don't think that government needs to be disruptive, particularly not from a technology standpoint. What we're doing that is innovative and different as a government contractor is in talking to the people who know what they're doing on the stakeholder side to figure out what the problem is that actually needs to be solved. And especially from the tech industry, because I come from private industry originally, there is this idea that you have your shiny new toys and you throw them at whatever problem is there and figure out what to do with it. And one of the things I love about working here is that Liz's team, the product team, spends a lot of time figuring out what is actually needed to be impactful and useful to the people on the other end of it. And then we pick the technology based on the problem that needs to be solved. But Liz, I think you can speak more to that.
Yeah. So, you know, on that note, and we'll just be clear, like there is definitely certain government technology that is behind and could you, like, we're still using Cobalt in some cases, right? Not here at CivicActions, but in federal government work, right? And so, like, there are
really a solid language.
I will defend it.
Want to be a trigger, but like there are these situations where we're stepping in where, government's just been behind in a lot of industries, and so it's not disruptive in the case of like we're coming out guns a-blazing saying AI everything, but it can seem radical to talk about digital transformation or to talk about what are your problems before you come to us with a laundry list of solutions. And so like my team's responsible for really leaning into that consulting arm of our business to be like, okay, what is it we're building and why? Like, obviously there are some things that we have to do from like a legislation mandate, and that comes in from time to time. But outside of that, there should be some squish around who are we building this for, both like, you know, people coming to the websites that we're developing, but also people who are maintaining those websites. You know, what are the impacts that we're hoping to make? And some of those impacts can be really simple. They don't have to be innovative tech. They can be simple changes to a workflow process that we find in some cases make a huge impact to those end users, people coming to visit the website and their day-to-day lives and the transactions that they're trying to accomplish. So we're not a disruptor in sort of like fancy tech startup speak, but our work can be disruptive and because of the impact that it can have on people.
You know, you said, you hit it right on the head, and that's what I was going to say. It doesn't sound like you guys are disruptors. You guys just don't know it, but it's just by doing the thought process of what it takes to make sure that the process is laid out to be functional. And to me, that is being a disruptor, because so many times in technology or even in life, you get bombarded with other things and priorities change. But it sounds like you guys are true to your roots and you're true to who you are, and you understand, okay, these are the things that we do and we know we have to do to be successful.
I really love the way that you phrase that, because I think that you've hit on something that's very important. A lot of the inefficiencies that happen in government and a lot of the improvements that can be made aren't on the technology side. It's what Liz is talking about here is learning about the context and listening to the domain knowledge of the people who have done this before and tried this before to be able to find the right solution, of which the technological tools are part of it, but not the reason for it.
It's not the end all be all. It's the problem is not going to get solved from technology. It's how the process is laid out to make it more efficient for everybody who's using it.
I would love to
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, I would love to circle back, earlier how we were talking about how, if a company hasn't really embraced open culture, right, people-centered culture, it can be a hard ship to turn around. We face those challenges doing government work as well, to just be frank and clear. Like, the reality is most government technology became technology because we took a paper or an in-person process and just said, recreate this and rebuild this in web form.
Yeah.
And so, because of that and because of the reality where we are today, there is a lot of stripping back and being intentional and understanding this full service model of what we're trying to do and seeing what makes sense from a technology standpoint. So we are also turning that ship just like a company is trying to turn its ship to be more people-centered. We're doing the same thing with our technology to be more people-centered.
That's awesome.
As well.
So, I mean, that kind of covers the innovation part of it as well. So help me understand. Let's unpack a little bit more about your guys' teams. What does the team dynamic look like? How big are the teams? What goes into the construction of making up a team?
Yeah, I can. Do you want me to answer that one, Laura, or do you want to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, you can.
So obviously that'll vary based on the contracts that we get put on. But in general, usually what you can find on a team as sort of a bare foundation is there's usually a product manager sort of overseeing the ownership of the products we're building and maintaining. You will have, an engineering lead or what we call a tech lead, front end and back end developers, DevOps engineer. There'll be a design lead. So, if we're contributing to the design, both the user experience as well as the visual design, we'll have people to do that. We'll have QA staff members. And in many cases, we usually put a web accessibility engineer on our projects. And in the case we don't have the budget for that, the majority of our staff actually have web accessibility certifications. And it's a big core tenet of our work at CivicActions, which is, you probably heard from when you interviewed with Mike Gifford previously.
Right.
And then beyond that, we have a bunch of other roles that get added, whether it's data analytics or content design. We have project management and program management support on our projects. And those our largest team has a bunch of different projects on it. That's about 55 people in total. And we have other teams that are sort of smaller in size.
Okay. That's awesome.
Hey, Liz, in the same way that you brought up accessibility, which relates back to the idea that we focus so much on the experience that the end user is going to get, I would love if you'd be willing to talk a little bit more about the service design and HCD focus that we have coming into this.
Yeah.
I'm the engineering side, but I love watching what product does here.
Awesome.
Yeah. So our product team leans this, but obviously our expertise in-house is really with our design team in this area. But, with the push of impact technology, human-centered design is such a huge piece of that. And the fundamentals of human-centered design are, sort of working alongside the people that you're building things for, so that you're co-creating along the way, whether it's we're interviewing people or doing surveys or looking at data to make decisions based on, how to solve these problems that we're trying to solve. From a product standpoint, we want to look at that from the beginning, and that's included in this whole decision making around what are we building and why. So we help support that, and a lot of people on my team sort of lean with this design background. It's not all product people. We also have people who have technical expertise. I have both software development and design in my background personally. The cool thing about product people is you usually have to have at least 2 other practice areas in your career in order to grow up into a product role. So we're already coming at it from multiple practice areas. And then of course, whenever it comes to human-centered design and the impact we're doing, we also heavily include engineering in that as well. So we don't want to just look at things from a design lens, because the engineering perspective, and Laura, you can speak to this better than me, they can tell us like, oh, actually that solution that you have, that like there's an easier technical way that we can do that than what you're thinking about. So having those practice areas talk together as we're building solutions is really crucial and important.
Thank you for the clarification that it is the design team that is a huge part of the HCD part. From the engineering side, I love that we get involved so early on in the process, so that when decisions are being made about what the end goal is, that we can speak to the implementation details about what's going to work and what's going to be most effective, cost aware,
Right.
and timely.
Awesome.
So I would like to know, if let's say I'm a candidate, I'm out looking for a job. What are you guys looking for? What is your big? Maybe talk us through the kind of the hiring process or how that works. I like that. I know that you usually ask that question, but I'm kind of curious. So what's that? Who are you looking for? What stands out to you guys?
I can start with the first part, since I've spent the better part of this week reviewing resumes for one of our open roles.
There you go.
We ask a couple of application questions, including tell us about yourself and what is it about CivicActions that makes you interested in working here. And I put a lot of weight on the thoughtfulness of people's answers on those.
That's good to hear. I mean, that's something listeners need to hear from you.
Absolutely.
So that's perfect.
There's so much information about there, conflicting information about how to do the right resume, how to get somebody's attention, how to put keywords in. And what we're looking for is authenticity and a genuine interest in the work that we're doing.
We've said that 1,000 times.
We've
said it, and it dumbfounds me how many people just spit out resumes without ever even looking. I mean, why spit out your resume to 100 different jobs if you're not going to really look at the job and see if you even want it? That is, I would never respond to any of those. And I'm sure you guys wouldn't either. If they didn't take the time to actually understand your company enough to be able to say something in their resume or their deal. So I'm glad you said that, and we've said it often, guys.
Hundreds
you
of
have
times.
to be real. You have to really have done at least a little bit of homework in that company. Sorry, I interrupted a little bit. Keep going. But it was just, I think that's so important.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Please do.
I'd love to add to that. And I'm also have an open position right now that I'm working to fill. And by the way, we have 8 open positions right now on our website.
Awesome.
Okay.
So please go to civicactions.com/careers and apply.
And there will be a link in the show notes as well. So anybody that's listening, go ahead and apply there as well.
We also have a future opportunities posting that's always out there. So if there's not something on the list, but you're still interested in Civic Actions, our talent team does meet with people who send through that future opportunities as well.
Cool.
Oh, absolutely. Just wanted to say the future opportunities is something so many companies have, but we are really so hungry for the kind of people that want to do this work and who it's close to their heart that, we take it very seriously.
Yeah. Anecdotally, and I was talking about this with my team earlier today when we were doing some resume reviews, and like the last time I hired up with my team was in the fall. So it's been a while. It's been a while. And the world has changed a little bit since that, with both like the advancements in AI, but also like the layoffs in the tech sector.
Right.
And we have a couple of hypotheses right now. One, I think a lot of people are writing their resumes with AI because they're just not as exciting. They're not as exciting. So I would say, if you are doing that with AI, please add some excitement to your resume.
Right.
And some interest, because they're all looking the same. And then, another theory is that maybe because people are being laid off or they're burnt out, that people are kind of tired, and that might be coming through in their resume writing as well.
Ooh. Can I give a positive spin on that? I've also found that I think there are a lot of people, particularly coming from high tech, who have had a chance over COVID and the layoffs to think about work that's more meaningful. And so we have people who want to come into the impact civic tech sector because they're looking for something a little more gratifying about how they spend their days.
Awesome.
That's cool. I love
I'm
that.
going to throw my 2 cents in on there as well. I mean, I think this is just my theory. I think that what's also happening is candidates are kind of loosely applying. I think it's, well, I know the market's a little shaky right now, so I'm just going to throw this out here, and if it works, great, but if not, no big deal. So I think maybe I could be wrong. Maybe that's what you're seeing in some of your resumes where they haven't updated them. They're just kind of stale and stagnant. But yeah,
Fair.
so
it's another hypothesis to add to the list.
right,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that brings me to another question. So let's say you guys do get your resumes, you go through them, you choose your top candidates. What does that interview process like? How many interviews are you guys going to do with them? Is there a team interview? Help me understand that process.
14 interviews. I think it's 14.
I think that's the going rate, right?
That's how many?
No, it was 16.
16.
It's similar but a little different. So, Liz, do you want to talk about the products?
Sure. I'll
first?
start. Yeah. So it varies based on the role and the practice area that we're hiring for. So like for product, for example, we do a resume review. We review all the resumes. And then those who advance will go get a phone screen with at least one member from CivicActions. And then we do our work style interview is we ask people to walk us through a product roadmap or a case study that they were involved in. And so that's our more technical interview on the product side. And then people who make it through that go to a final round interview.
So during those processes, like, what do you look for in a candidate? Like what
gets them
makes
to go
them
to the
stand
next?
out?
Yeah, what makes them go to the next level?
So from like a review standpoint, like one, there are certain requirements for our federal contracts that we need to meet in terms of like residency in the U.S. and years in a product role as a minimum. And then beyond that, we look at like from your intake, was there a passion in CA? Like of like the, what you're expected to do in the product role. Have you talked about that? In your experience in the resume, so that gets you to a screen. And like a lot of people make it to the screen. We're generous. We lean generous with the screen versus not. And then in the screen itself, we ask more detailed questions around like understanding the types of stakeholders they work with. Obviously, like if you've worked in federal government work, it's a plus, but there's a lot of other industries that have dealt with processes that are complex or, you've worked with a lot of different stakeholders. Yeah. And so, as well as like, other things that can be great are like passion for accessibility, passion for human-centered design, understanding what other practice areas this person might have grown up into in their role. There's more to discuss. Like that could be a whole podcast of its own, but we're hitting the high points of like the expectations of the role and seeing if you've done some of that.
Awesome.
Cool.
Engineering is a little bit different. We do a lot more weeding out before the screening process just because of the sheer volume of applications, which is why the application questions have become such a point of looking at how people answer. After the initial screen, where we do look for the same things that product does, we go directly into the work style interview, which is a combination of the standard situational, tell us about a time that, what happened, and where do you want to work? What makes you happy in a job? Because the fit goes both ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
After that, there is a take-home, and we've gotten excellent feedback from our take-home is that it is straightforward and it's real work that you would be doing in real life, which was the objective, to make it something that would be indicative of what people would be doing day to day. For people who pass the take-home, we go to final interview.
Okay. How long is that take-home? I mean, generally speaking, like, is it an hour project? Help me understand how long it'll take someone.
For the take-home?
Yep.
The expectation is 1 to 2 hours.
Okay. Yeah. So something very, very straightforward, but something they would be doing on a day-to-day basis
There's
okay.
no gotchas.
That's a good thing.
We don't want to be that kind of company.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't sound like you guys are, but again, I mean, the more information we can provide, I think the better off we are. So, yeah.
It's good stuff. Ooh, with that. So we always like to ask, or at least I always like to ask. Yeah. We both do. What do you think the future of your technology is? What's going on? Where do you guys see you going? 5-10 years. I mean, craziness. Let's think. I love prediction and prophecies. So where do you guys see yourselves?
Can I take this first, Liz? Because you know I'm a true believer here. I come from a data engineering background, and I worked for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services on the data side for a while. And as everyone's talking about data analysis and data science and AI or machine learning, one of the core tenets of what needs to change is the quality of the data that's getting fed into these systems, because garbage in, garbage out.
Agreed.
So one of the areas that I'm hoping that we'll be moving into and am a strong advocate for here is working with government data to make it as high quality and usable and meaningful as possible, so that the insights that come out on the other end of the pipeline are the most relevant to making life better for people who depend on these services.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's very impactful. I mean, I think you hit right on. I mean, I love the phrase, garbage in, garbage out, and so many times companies use data as probably a selling point to just say, hey, well, this is how we can keep our contract, and it's not about that. It's really about, is the data good? Is it something very usable, or is it not?
Yeah,
Thanks for letting me take that, Liz. What's yours?
No, Laura and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday, and I think, we have a different view on the future of technology since we've been working in technology roles for over 2 decades, right? Like, we've seen a lot of things pan out, or a lot of things get weird, and
right.
It can be really hard to predict, where technology is going. If I were to speak more aspirationally, where I hope the future of technology is going, as a person who thinks we can utilize technology as a force for good, I feel like as technologists, there's a lot of responsibility in our roles, because we can literally shape and make society. And the world got to see that more closely during COVID than any other time before. But we're literally creating the tools that can shift kids to doing school from home. And I don't think that responsibility should be taken lightly, whether it's, you're building, a SaaS product, or you're working for a Silicon Valley startup, or you're working on federal government work. I think we all need to be really intentional about the work that we put in the world, because it has a great impact on humanity.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think, and this is just my own personal belief, but if more thought was taken into that process of how it's going to affect humanity, I think we would have way better products. And I think personally, we would be further along in technology if we did that.
100%.
Yeah.
And there's if you we work in a capitalistic society, right? Like, I make money,
right.
I choose a job that pays me well, but there's money in impact tech. I've worked for multiple impact tech. There's money there. So if people are thinking that's not a thing, or you can't get paid well, that's a myth.
Ooh,
Can I also
good.
put in
That's good information.
Absolutely.
In addition to the direct compensation part of it, which is market, we also, because we're such a person-focused company to begin with, have fantastic benefits. So that's something else to consider when looking to go into a mission-driven company who cares about people as part of their core value.
I'm glad you guys said that, because I think that is a misconception out there.
It is.
And there are people thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to get paid enough. But that is awesome and eye-opening that you both have explained that, hey, that is not the case. Not only do we get paid market, we also get great benefits, and you're a part of something you believe in and you care about. That's freaking awesome.
Exactly. It's like a win-win-win across the board.
Absolutely.
100%.
And I think it's something like we've said in the past, and now people are looking for things to believe in more and care about than just having a job. It's no longer enough to just have a job. we've got to care about what the company's doing. At least
Absolutely.
it feels that way.
Well, and I mean, I think that, I mean, being able to have that culture and that care obviously debunks the whole role of, you know, software engineers and developers only staying 3 to 5 years at a company. I think when they have that buy-in and they have that understanding, they want to be there longer. They want to contribute, and they want that next project that's going to continue to create that change.
And that's what an employer really wants.
Absolutely.
They want a dedicated
100%.
person that cares about what they're doing.
Yep.
I love it. Well, with that, we like to ask our last question. So what do you guys think about the future of technology in general? This is we love to just end on a fun question.
And there are no strings attached to this one. Let's preface this first. Whatever crazy ideas you think where technology is going to go or the future of tech, there is no limit. So let's get your just personal opinions. Where do you think it's going to be?
Can I have 2 opinions?
Absolutely.
No, you can't have 2. That's
Then let me select.
No, I'm just kidding. You can totally have 2.
The first one is, I think that AI as it exists now is eye-rollingly overblown. The second is that I hope that we're going to start seeing the world become a matter of people who are creators and then utilize technology as tooling.
Yes.
Rather than people that are, say, just coders.
Exactly.
They're actual developers.
Yep.
Yes.
That the creative aspect stays there and is highlighted.
Well,
Okay.
and my
This-
personal opinion on that one, on that second piece, I really think that AI is going to take over more of the coding aspect of it, and it's going to be less developers in the market, but more architects and engineers who understand the higher level of how do I want this to
creators.
do the things I want it to
The
do.
AI still needs
Exactly.
creators. No
Exactly.
matter what the AI does, it
Solving
still
the
needs
problem.
Exactly.
creators. Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Liz?
Your AI output is only as good as the input, like we talked about before.
100%.
Like,
Yep.
garbage
Yep.
in with your AI, garbage out. with your
Exactly.
I get
AI,
really
right?
good AI stuff because I put in good stuff.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I definitely think, and this is going to sound gross as it comes out of my mouth, like I definitely think we're in an AI renaissance. Like AI feels like what's happening with AI right now feels a lot like what happened when mobile started booming. Like I'm just feeling that same
Yeah.
sort of energy. But just like when mobile started and it got this huge momentum, and then it got rocky for a while. Like, I mean, the way that we use our mobile phones today is very different than the way we used them when mobile first came out. Like, I used to do a talk on overcoming Apple App Store rejection. Like, I had a talk and I did a circuit on that, and that's not
Wow.
really a thing anymore.
Right.
Or like, we mobile phones changed like scrolling on web pages. Like, it changed
They
how
did, yeah.
we and so like I think in the next 2 years we'll see some settling with AI, and maybe, you know, some things will shake out, and, you know, some companies who are throwing money into things will just fizzle up and go away. But we've definitely hit a new era in AI, and I don't think it's going away, but it'll be interesting to see what actually shakes out and what sticks with the amount of attention and work going into it right now.
With you saying that, it put me into, it took me back to the 90s, and I think this, well, somewhat relevant anyway, it's interesting to me. In the early 90s, I was a pizza delivery guy, right? And dude, finding people's houses was freaking incredibly hard. Oh my gosh, I had these maps all over, and the maps were, and you're driving. Oh, dude, it was. Oh my gosh, yes, it was horrifying to try and find houses. It was just nuts, and it sucked the whole time. And but then I remember the first rental car I got that had a nav system on it, and I was like, oh my hell. This is amazing.
Right. Mind blowing.
But then I was in Newark, and it couldn't get me to a hotel that I could see. But it couldn't get me there. So it had time, you know, it needed growth. It needed to get fixed. And now we go anywhere with our phone, anything, anywhere. I'm like, dude, how did I get to any place on the planet without my phone? And I think you're right. AI is going to be there. Eventually we're going to do, how did we do anything without AI?
Yep.
I would love to circle back from your last question to something that I know we talked about earlier in the interview. When we were talking about using technology as a way to solve problems, I think that's what's happened with mobile and will happen with AI, is that the people solving the problems are still going to be the important architecture part
Agreed.
Yep.
of what needs to happen. We're just getting better tools for it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, in the meantime, hopefully nobody exploits it or takes advantage of it. And I think that
Well,
will be
they
the
will.
differentiator.
Or
Well,
it takes over itself and kills us all. Don't forget
Yeah.
that one.
I don't think that will happen.
Yeah,
Right.
I had to throw it out there. I had to at least put it out there.
We got the conspiracy theorist over here. Don't mind him.
No, yeah, I'm not there yet.
No, not quite. No.
Oh, this has been great. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. It's awesome
It is.
to hear what's going on out there in the world and what companies are doing to shape the world and do what you do. Thank you so much for honoring us with being on the show. We really, really appreciate it. Any last words from you guys that you would like to give, and maybe where people can get a hold of you or find out more about you guys?
Working in civic tech has been the most gratifying part of my career, and I've been doing this for more than 20 years.
Awesome.
I love it.
Yep, I would agree. I'm here because I love this work and it fuels me. You can, CivicActions.com is our website. We're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, and if you are still on Twitter, it's on Twitter as well. I am happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. Just look up Liz Tupper, Civic Actions, and you will find me. And this has just been a pleasure. Like, Laura and I don't always get to sit and chat like this, to just one-on-one with two other people, but it's been so great. And I just once again, thanks for coming to the Monster Truck podcast show. This has been great.
Ladies and gentlemen, I love it.
Thank you so much for having us today.
Absolutely.
You
It's our
bet.
pleasure.
I love it when we have people on the show that you can tell immediately have a real passion and energy and love for what they're doing. That gets me excited. You hear the world and you hear things and you just don't realize there's still really good people out there doing really, really good things and that are really passionate. So I honor you two for coming on the show.
Agreed.
And showing us, your passion and how much you love what you're doing. It's so good. I just thank you so much.
Yes.
Absolutely. Anytime you need some irrepressible optimism.
I love it. That is so
Absolutely.
good. Any last words?
I'm
Brad?
good. No, I mean, you covered it all.
All right. Thank you for coming to the Truck Valley. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for listening to Jobs in Tech.